If your graph editor is acting slow, the most common thing is that you have an editable motion trail somewhere in your scene. So I would go through and make sure that you have no editable motion trails in your scene. So for anyone who doesn't know, editable motion trails are tracking arcs in Maya. So for example, if I track my wrist and I'm doing this motion, it'll show a trail showing that arc of the wrist there, which is really cool. And what happens is if I move the wrist, it'll update the trail to match that arc. Great. Very nice. Now Maya's motion trails admittedly are pretty darn slow. I hope Maya 2024 upgrades that and speeds it up. I don't think they did. So they're kind of slow by default. Now, what ends up happening is when you have a motion trail, it is going to try and update the entire trail whenever you make one change. So if I move the wrist, it's going to update the whole trail. Perfect. When you retime something in the graph editor, what can happen is as you move something in the graph editor, it's going to try and re-evaluate the entire trail for every single tiny change that happens on every single control, which can make the graph editor just non-responsive. So if ever you're going to make changes in the graph editor, it's usually, especially big changes, usually a good idea to get rid of the motion trails. So no luck. The next thing I would do, just as a quick test, this is going to tell you whether the issue is with the scene itself or with something in Maya. Do a quick preference reset. So just go into your documents folder, Maya, and rename your preferences folder, the prefs, P-R-E-F. I think it's prefs S, P-R-E-F-S. So rename that folder, reopen Maya. It'll be totally new. All the preferences will be reset, and then see if you're still having that slowdown. If it's fixed, there was something in the settings that was slowing things down, you should be good now. If it's still not fixed, now we know that it's nothing within the Maya settings and it's something within the scene itself, or maybe a rig or something like that. Now, let's say you've done that and it's still slow. Another thing you could do, and honestly you could do this first or after, whichever you prefer, is if you're using a custom rig in your scene. So you've taken a rig and you've added a custom hairstyle, custom clothing, whatever it is, those can slow down Maya because it's essentially you're adding stuff on top of a pre-existing rig, and it can just kind of bog things down. So what you can do is try to replace the reference with an original version of the rig, one that hasn't been modified. So you just go to the, I'll just show it here. Get my tablet. You can tell I wasn't even planning on doing any demos. My pen was just sitting there all alone, not even in my hand. How sad. So if you just go to File, Reference Editor right here, and then you'll have a reference in the scene, select that, and then go to Reference, Replace Reference right here. And then replace it with the original version of that rig. That should speed things up.